Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ask the Amigos. This is the show where we answer Discord's burning questions, Aaron. It's been a while, and it's time to
It's
start.
been a while.
That's
Sorry.
right. With Pajako6502, he says, it is the ultimate Time Lord Rumble. All the doctors are meeting up in one time and place to fight it out to the death. No regenerations allowed.
Oh, man.
Which doctor will be victorious?
Well, see, here's the problem with that question. The current doctors, like the last couple, they're some of them can actually like fight with swords and stuff, So I would probably say, if I had to think about it, because none of the doctors, most of the doctors are sort of like dandies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're sort of like you, Boat. They're northern dandies.
Foppish.
Foppish. Yeah, exactly, foppish. I would probably take. I mean, you can eliminate a lot of them because they're just too old. Like the first guy, the second guy.
Well, the first doctor was like 85, right?
Yeah. I mean, Tom Baker is big. He would be, and he's also crazy. So, but
is Tom Baker? Are you talking about like if all the doctors were in their prime, like when the shows aired, or like as they are now?
No, when they aired, yeah.
Okay.
Because now they're. I mean. Wouldn't be fair at all. I'd pick the chick, but I would probably say because Peter, the fifth Doctor, was really young, but Tom Baker wasn't that old, and he was also big. He's deceptively big. So if they were going to have a fight, but the problem is those guys never ever really fought that much, if I'm honest. So it's tough. So I would probably go with what was the guy, the doctor that was in part of the revival? Let me get his name. I want to make sure I don't get it wrong. Do you have a thought on this? I mean, you don't really.
I don't know anything about Doctor Who.
Have you ever watched a single episode of Doctor Who?
Not a complete one.
Right. So, what do you say? You didn't like it that much?
Yeah, it was like Avatar 2. I gave it 45 minutes, and then I was out.
So here's my rundown. Look at these guys over, okay? John Pertwee is a big guy, and he actually did a lot of action in his. And he'd be right near the top. Tom Baker would be near the top as well. But I'd probably go with Christopher Eccleston. He was the guy that was around in 2005 when they brought it back, because he was sort of an action doctor, and he also looks like a guy you'd find straight in the streets of Sussex, like out after a pub pummeling a guy. So I'm going to go with Eccleston. But I mean, it's a tough call.
Okay.
I mean, and to be fair, I know you don't care about this, by the way. David Tennant did a lot of sword fighting and crap, so because he was super active, so I'd put him in the top couple as well.
Seems weird to have like a sci-fi doctor be involved with a lot of sword fighting.
Well, the doctors got real. Well, you know how I think about it. I gave up. I'm out, brother. I've been out for years, man.
Jocko also asks, if you could have a pet or a sidekick, robots are allowed, from a video game, which one would you have?
Ooh, pet or do you want go ahead and go first, Bo, since I've been talking?
Well, when I think about like a robot sidekick, I mean, this is sort of a cheap answer, but sort of not, because he does appear in video games. I've always loved C-3PO. I've always loved his mannerisms, his way of being. I'd love to have him follow me around in his sort of like, rumbling, stumbling ways.
He's sort of a geek, though.
Yeah, he makes me look cool. He's the ultimate wingman.
You know who I'd want? Remember in Out of This World, where you're in that cage and you hook up with that alien guy?
Yeah.
That guy.
He's not going to be a real engaging conversation partner.
I don't know. He goes, ba-ba-da-ba. You can hang out. I kind of like that guy. And he's also tough, and he also knows how to use a weapon. He's smart. So I would go with the weird alien guy from Out of This World. Plus, he's friendly. Like, he makes friends with your guy, and your guy's an alien on his world, so I think that's nice.
That is nice. Ravi asks, if you had to cosplay as an Amiga character, which would you choose?
Oh, man. Well, I don't think I could pull off KT from Top Banana. So I'm trying to think who can I pull off in the width and breadth of the universe that is the Amiga. Do you have a thought on this?
Absolutely. I would be Gomez from the Addams Family. I mean, he looks like Raul Julia, and Raul Julia looks awesome. So you get to rock a velvet smoking jacket and you get to roll around your house smoking cigars. That sounds great.
What's the name of that game that with the geek and the chick at the end that I love so
Jim
much?
Power.
Jim Power. He's the guy. I want to be him because he's super cool, and I like the fact that your girlfriend's perpetually stunned and wondering what she's doing with Jim Power.
I'd cosplay as his girlfriend in that.
That would be great. Show me your Jim Power's girlfriend look. That's it. You got it. Bam, we're in. That's it.
Adam from Commodore Chronicles writes, if the world were to be taken over by one TV or movie-based AI robotic creation, what would your robot overlord of choice be?
So the world's being taken over. We don't have a choice in that matter. We just got to pick who we'd want to live under.
Right.
In terms of the AIs in movie and TV and film, I don't know. It's early days, right? I'm going to go with, one of my favorite books and one of my games that I really enjoy, Neuromancer. Now that's a cool AI, chess playing AI. He's taking over cyberspace. He's knocking off the cyber cowboys one at a time. I always thought that was cool, and also I think the name Neuromancer is like super cool. So I'm going to go with that. Although I don't think that was the guy's name.
I'm going with Kit.
The Knight Rider car or the guy in our Discord?
Nope, the Knight Rider car.
Yeah. Those geeks I can't stand. They bought the original Kit. I saw that on one of their videos the other day.
Mm-hmm.
So that shot that dream in the butt.
Cameron Armstrong asks, do you use ChatGPT much? I've had a great time talking about Amiga stuff to it. And as a side note, I am close to releasing a ChatGPT app for internet-enabled Amigas running Amiga OS 3.2.
Who sent this?
This is Cameron Armstrong.
Wow.
AKA Night Fox.
What a crazy app. First of all, I salute you. Because I would also live under the AI that had an Amiga running it. I'd be down with that. I have not screwed with it much. And every time I have, it's been an atrocity. Now, Bo, you're a skilled player with the old ChatGPT, aren't you?
I do. I enjoy playing with it. Brent's in chat right now. He talks about running role-playing games with it. It's a great DM because it will literally just keep on making up stuff for you, and it will remember what it's made up.
Show me how you do that. I have no idea how you do that stuff.
Okay. But I will say, and I don't know if you read much in our AI chat here on Amigos, but there's been a bunch of studies saying that ChatGPT has gotten worse, and I know it's true because it's not as good as it was when it first came out, and I can't figure that out. I don't know if everybody interacting with it has made it dumber somehow, but it has gotten like less cool to be around. It's like friend you used to like, but now you want to get away from.
Yeah, I know that guy. I've been that guy. Here's the thing. When I heard about the chat gimmick, they said it's culling all this information and images and all this knowledge from all the different predetermined spots on the net. I thought to myself, that's interesting. But I also thought to myself, man, I hope they're paying real good attention about where it's getting this information, because a lot of things on the net are wrong or dumb. And so I thought to myself, if you give this the wrong information, you're gonna have an AI that's an idiot and a jerk. So maybe that's what's happening.
Yeah. I don't know what's happening, but maybe it's just a run up. They're depreciating, version 4. So when version 5 comes out, they'll charge twice as much, and it's all a ploy.
If you think about it, if you took a kid, okay, like a new kid, he'd never, like say 5-year-old kid, he's never been on the internet, and you said, here, little Billy. Here, you have access to all the internet for kids, like archives of like Smithsonian and history.
Right.
A nice walled area, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Everything has been pre-picked out and everything cleansed, right?
Right.
And then you slowly let the kid get on the real internet. I suspect something very similar would happen. You know what I mean?
I think you've got something there.
Yeah.
David Hearn Ryder asks, do you prefer to play games against the computer or human opponents?
It really depends on the game. I mean, I prefer to play humans in like fighting games or wrestling games, stuff like that. I prefer to play the computer and stuff like shmups and that or that sort of thing. When it comes to RPGs, I absolutely prefer humans over the computer. Without that, that's the one place that makes a huge difference.
I think I agree with everything you're saying, but let me ask it in a different way. If given the choice, no matter the game, would you rather sit down by yourself and play video games, or would you rather sit down and play video games with somebody else?
Other people. Okay. I'm a social gamer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, it's almost always better.
I'm the opposite. I enjoy my video game time to be like by myself, because I have a hard time really getting immersed in the atmosphere of a video game, and I think it depends on the kind of video game, as you're saying too. But I really like to kind of shut the world out and really focus in. I also don't like watching movies with people for the same reason. I like being able to really lose myself. Versus tabletop gaming, I love playing because that's more of my social gaming experience. So
I will say, when it comes to movies and TV shows, and this is I'll watch movies with people. I love it, TV shows. But what I don't love is when they, especially with something you've recommended, is when they just stop looking at the screen, fiddle with their phone. Then I start getting angry.
Right.
Especially if they're missing things that are clever or fun or hilarious.
Yeah. I hate that.
I'm like, why are you here? Just get out of here. That's one thing I like about the camp. There's no internet. There's no telephone signal. There's no nothing. So you're looking at that screen, or you're just looking off into space. That's the only options.
Andy Craig asks, okay, get ready. This is a long question.
All right.
Okay. So he's asking about Commodore leadership. Okay. And he says, Irving Gould was generally disliked in the late days of Commodore as he let Commodore CEOs bleed the company dry. Yet he had saved Commodore in 1966. What's your opinion of him?
He's the money man, as we know. He was the guy that was backing this sinking ship. My opinion of him, it's hard to sit here and say what a piece of crap, because he's the money man. CEOs did bleed it dry. I mean, Commodore CEOs are always at the top of the salary list. I remember seeing that back in the day and being furious at it. I mean, they're up there with like the elite CEOs of the day when it comes, especially the computer area. So he probably needed a little more. I'd say part of it is lack of knowledge, lack of product knowledge. But I mean, who had big product knowledge back in those days about computers? You're talking to something that's been out for 10 years, So it was. I don't blame him fully. I don't blame him. I mean, he did dumb things. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I think he was, Plus, who knows what else he had cooking? I don't know. I don't know the full dossier of what he had going. But I would wager that this wasn't the only stick he had to fire. And then he went in and did his thing. But he got out. The thing sank. That was it. But I don't necessarily hold him responsible. I'm not sure who you hold responsible if you could pick like one guy, because people sucked money from the company, and Commodore didn't do a very good job of expanding their line of computers or keeping up with the Joneses or whatnot. But I mean, maybe they were up against insurmountable odds, if you want the truth. I don't know. I'm not sure anything they could have done would have made a difference, So that's my opinion. What do you think, Boat?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that all of these guys at the top, their job is to, make money. When you're a CEO, your job is to make money for your stakeholders. And you have to make a judgment call on whether you think the future of making money is going to lie with the company continuing to produce computers, or does the future lie in selling off your assets and sort of fading off into the distance? And when you're making a business decision, sometimes you have to make choices that are not popular with the people who, and it's sort of the problem with people forming these irrational attachments to machinery. People buy these computers, and the computer becomes such a part of themselves that the life and death of the company becomes something that they care passionately about. And I've been there. I'm sure you've been there with stuff. You've bought stuff, you love it, And when you start to see stuff go south from a business perspective, and you see, CEOs selling off assets and doing things like that, it does make you angry. But now that I've gotten older, I realize that that's part of doing business, and that the CEO is there to do that. He's not there to make Commodore, the owners of the 1200 happy.
Yeah, you could say that you could make the same conversation about Atari and their rise and fall, and Apple and their rise and fall before they came back from the dead, and a bunch of other companies, and plenty of companies that are long gone. This is companies come and go, and you're right. They have a different agenda than the consumer does, and often those two agendas do not mix well.
Yeah. Do any of these, and this is also from Andy, do any of these CEO names elicit a strong emotion? And he's listed them in chronological order. Jack Tramiel, Marshall Smith, Thomas Radigan, Max Toy, Harold Copperman, James Dion, and Mehdi Ali.
Well, Mehdi Ali's one, that was the when he was getting paid big time. That's the one that really pissed me off, if I'm honest. Listen, Jack Tramiel, he's a guy. What are you going to say about him? I mean, everyone knows about Jack Attack, but listen, he built Commodore from literally nothing. Here's a guy that came over, came out of World War II prison camp, beat down. And he came over here and he worked hard. I got nothing bad to say about the guy for his work ethic. Now, his business practices were double dirty, but this goes right back to what we were just talking about. You could get on him for doing all this double deal and being real super dirty in business, but he also was very successful at it, and he was a money maker, and it's business, and everyone's playing dirty in business a lot of times. So, it's not the most ethical arena. And I doubt Jack did things that many other big-time players did in other ways for other big corporations. So I don't have a problem with Jack as such. And the rest of them, honestly, I don't know enough about them to really have a feeling one way or the other, Boot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any strong feelings. Like I said, I respect Jack Tramiel for what he did and the company that he built. And listen, if you're talking about shady business practices, welcome to the technology club, because all these guys are crooked as the day is long, and they all did stuff that was shady and underhanded. So.
Yeah. I mean, we're just talking about Atari. They flat out stole Pong, and they stole a bunch of stuff. They put games out they weren't licensed to. They did all kinds of stuff that they shouldn't have done. And they had ups and downs in court, just like Commodore did. But you're right. Everyone was trying to get away with as much as they could, as fast as they could.
I was listening to a podcast today about the history of Nike, and Phil Knight was in a business meeting with one of the Japanese shoe suppliers, and they were like, and he was trying to get them to manufacture his shoe. And they were like, well, we've got some other shoe designs from Adidas and other places that we're looking at. The guy that he was meeting with got up and excused himself. Phil opened the guy's briefcase, Xeroxed all the documents that were in it, and put them back before he came back from the bathroom.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're dealing with here in the world of corporatism.
That's the dirtiest of pool right there.
All right. So, Andy Craig, his third and final question for the edition says, lastly, if Vince McMahon had been a Commodore CEO, what would have happened?
Well,
you think Vince could have saved Commodore?
I'll tell you one thing. There'd be a lot more chips named after women in that thing, almost certainly. And there'd be a lot more lawsuits because Vince is it's funny in wrestling. Vince is the most successful promoter of all time. Full stop. There's no one even close, all right? How did he get there? He screwed every other promoter. He screwed all the wrestlers. He screwed other promotions that tried to start. And then he tried to hook up with every chick in sight. He paid them off. He paid hush money to keep women quiet, to keep wrestlers from being put in jail. I mean, including guys that committed murder. He is the lowest of the low-life scumbags, okay? But in business, being the lowest of the low-life scumbags makes you a billionaire. He's a super motivated guy who never, ever stops. He's relentless in everything he does, for good and for bad. Now, if you had a guy like Vince in any other industry, he would probably do just as well, because people like that super motivated, like up-all-night maniacs usually get a lot done. I think that's one of the reasons he gets in trouble, because he can't sit still. He can't take a pause. It's a blessing and a curse. If Vince had ran Commodore, it would have been him and Jack Tramiel probably would have gotten along quite nicely. I doubt Jack was the wolf that Vince was with the ladies, but Vince, he does what he has to do to win. Even today, when his company is 100 times larger than the next competitor, he still purposely tries to book arenas where the other company wants to go. He puts stuff on nights where the other company's having a big show. He still does that, despite the fact that he's jumped out to an insurmountable lead. That's the reason why he's still in power. He was gone. He retired, and he was booted out under horrible circumstances. And he's so clever and devious, he weaseled his way back in, fired all the people off the board that didn't like him, and took back over after all he did. So he's that kind of guy. Do I think he'd be a big player in any business? Absolutely.
Well said. Well said. David Hearn Ryder asks, Aaron, tell us more about your rescue cats. Which one is the boss of the house?
Well, we've got 2 cats that both came from the shelter, of course. So we got Snowball first. Tree and Luke wanted to have a little baby kitty, and they brought Snowball home, a little white cat. Snowball he's the boss of the house because he's the big cat, and he's the boy cat. And then eventually, Snowball kept driving me nuts, scratching at my door every night, trying to bug me. And so I thought, wait, we'll get another cat, and that'll calm him down. So we ended up, Icky was a cat that literally was rescued off the street, and she weighed about an ounce. When we got her, I held her in my hand like this, and I looked at her, and I thought to myself, oh, why did they give this cat a name? It's not even going to live. The vet had told us there's a slim chance that Icky would live, and to feed Icky as much food as Icky could eat, which, unfortunately, that's not only did Icky live, but that became Icky's life's work, to eat as much as possible. Icky's short for Ichabod. We call her Icky. And Ichabod, she's a beautiful, sweet little thing, but she's very shy. She does not like to be picked up or held. She's got a real sad sort of yelp when she wants something, but she's coming out of her shell over the last few years. Her and Snowball occasionally fight, but they generally get along okay. Snowball, despite the fact that there's another cat here, still drives me nuts. He wakes me up every night. He wakes me up in the morning. And when it's time for food, they both come in here and basically demand that they be fed. So they're fun. I like them. They've torn up all my furniture, and they've left fur in every room in my house. So will I get another cat or dog? No. But I do love these 2, and I've enjoyed having them.
Ravi asks, what did you guys think of the Sega Dreamcast?
It's funny. I've got one sitting right here. I love the Sega Dreamcast, Bo. Go ahead. What do you think about it?
The Dreamcast was unbelievable revelation when it came out, because to me it seemed like a generational shift. It seemed like a multi-generational shift, going from the PlayStation and the Nintendo 64 to the Dreamcast. It came out in a seminal point in my life. It came out, of course, 9/9/99. I was a freshman in college. One of the guys had a Dreamcast on my floor in the dorms, and I remember playing what's the big fighting game for the
Soul Calibur?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just playing Soul Calibur and looking at it and was thinking, this is it. This is the arcade experience brought home 100%.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how great it was, and then likewise, I couldn't believe how soon it disappeared. When I heard later that, the next year when they were discontinuing it, I was like, what? This thing was awesome. What happened? Of course, I didn't know anything about the business side of things or what had happened, but the Dreamcast was special because, A, it had all those great first-party Sega games, had Soul Calibur, it had Bass Fishing, had Crazy Taxi, all of these great games. But it was also the machine, the very first console that you could run emulators on that I had. I'm sure that there were other ones, but this was the thing where you got a disc and it said Nestor DC on it, and you popped it in and you could play Nintendo games. And I was like, holy cow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So I love the Dreamcast. I still love the Dreamcast. I think it's a great system.
I agree with everything you said there. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't in a console game back when this came out. I mean, I hadn't had a console at that point for a long time. I was a computer guy, but I did have my eye on it, and I thought, and I saw Soul Calibur and some other stuff. I was like, man, and NFL 2K. That game was Revelation 2 before it got undermined by Madden.
Mm-hmm.
But and the tennis game they had on their tennis 2K. But I didn't get one until they came. There were two things that got me to get one. I was part of a forum. They're still around, called An Tech. And they had a forum on there where you could get hot deals. The hot deals forum, and they had a hot deal. Like J.C. Penney was selling these things for it was a real blow up discount. And I didn't know why they were so cheap at the time, but I'm like, well, that's a cheap price. But what about the ability to pirate games for it? So I looked into it, and sure enough, piracy was on fire at this point, which probably explains why it was so cheap. And so with those two things in mind, I grabbed one. Mine came with Sonic, the Sonic game, the football game, right out of the box. So I had two great games to play right out of the gate, And then you also had the cool VMU screen on it, which was great for football game because you could have the plays on there. I love that. I thought that thing was clever, and a lot of stuff in the Dreamcast was very clever, the modem and whatnot. But what killed the Dreamcast, in my opinion, people say piracy, and that was some of it, but what killed the Dreamcast was the Saturn and the 32X and the CD expansion for the Genesis. All these goofy, ill-thought-out, expensive things had come out, and people lost faith. They lost faith. And then what sealed the deal was the incredible popularity of the PlayStation and the thought that the PlayStation 2 was just around the corner. And that haunted the Dreamcast the entire time it was on the shelf because everyone knew the big dog was coming to town.
That's right.
That's right. And so people it sold great at first, and the sales dropped like a rock, and then Sega was out. And it was a great machine. It was just why it's still popular. Much like the PC Engine. It was a great machine. It was better than everything else at the time. But eventually, it just went away. But I love it.
Is2Scooby asks, do you think you got into more or less trouble as a kid because you were into gaming and arcades?
Here's the thing. Gaming wasn't a thing until the 80s. All right? Now, we had, in 81, we had an Odyssey 2. So, but you got to think, I grew up in the 70s. From 71 to 80, no one had a game machine. And the arcades were not what they would become. They were more like mechanism games, bat and ball games, games where you fly a little helicopter, pinball.
The electromagnetic type
That's
things.
Right. That's correct. And so, which were fun, but there also weren't as many, right? Because those games were expensive. They broke a lot. So gaming didn't really take off until I was already 12 or 13 or 11, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe a little bit earlier. But, they really took off then, 82, 83. And then arcades took off then, too. So did it keep me out of trouble? It did not. And the reason it did not is because, for example, my buddy had an 8-bit Atari. We wanted to play a game on it. We would load up the tape, put it in, and we'd go play for an hour while it loaded. Then we'd go play for, 20 minutes. And so really the game was sort of just fun little afterthought to our other play. So I would not say it kept me out of trouble. Arcades weren't as dark and dingy as you've been led to believe most of the time. So even when I got to go to an arcade, it's not like I could walk to one. If you're in West Virginia, you're probably not walking to an arcade. Even at their height, you'd have trouble. Bo could have, but I couldn't. It would have been too far. So I would say it did not affect me being in trouble or not.
Yeah, I don't know that. I definitely spent a ton of time growing up playing video games, but I don't know necessarily that I was running with the crowd that was getting into a lot of mischief that weren't playing video games. I think the biggest single factor in me not getting in trouble as a kid was being in the band, because the friends that I made in high school that were in the band were generally people that didn't get up to a lot of real bad stuff. And the crew that I was running with at the end of 8th grade definitely were. They were into smoking pot and all kinds of stuff. And when I joined the band in high school, I sort of dropped them as a friend group and started hanging out with people like your brother. And that really kind of, I think, saved me from a long road of bad decisions.
That's an indictment. I'd say that began your road of bad decisions right there. One also, you were a big player in the Scouts, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Boy Scouts.
I was in Scouts for a good while. So that I went to church every Wednesday. The whole 9 years. I don't think I was a real tough kid. My parents seemed to think I was a pretty good kid. Brent was the real scumbag.
Super Tech Boy asks, if you invented a new crypto coin, what would you call it?
Well, I mean, the obvious thing to call it would be Amiga bucks. That'd be kind of fun. But then it could be Devil Bounty. I could use that.
Oh,
it's like a play on
that's
my
good,
name.
man. That's good.
That was just right off the top of my head. What about you, Boat
Well,
Buck?
Yeah, here's the thing. If I was really going to do this and I wasn't just joking around, I would probably come up with something. What you want to have is something that sounds vaguely Japanese to give it an air of legitimacy. Plus, you tie it into nostalgic video games. I'd go with Yoshi Coin.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a thing that you could imagine being a thing.
Wouldn't there be? You don't think there'd be sort of? I guess the name Yoshi could be anything.
Yeah, there's a million Japanese people named Yoshi.
Yeah, I like it. But of course, Boat, you were you dabbed around in the crypto market.
Oh yeah, I lost truckfuls of money.
Right. So I mean, that market. I mean, you've got to be out of your freaking mind to do that right now. I think.
Well,
unless you've got a secret.
Here's the thing. If you're the one issuing the coin, that's the position that you want to be in. Because then you're making all the money. People pay you for a thing that doesn't exist. Then you take all that money and you disappear.
I've been watching here recently. They've been talking about how these NFTs have dropped. These people are paying millions of dollars for these things. They can't get anything. It can't be BuzzSpare for them now. And I think to myself, if you spend a couple $1 million on an NFT, I'm going to go on the assumption that you had the money to spend at that point.
Right,
and
hopefully.
That you're just dumb. As opposed to, but I mean, anyone that thought NFTs were going to be the next big thing, I'm always baffled at that. Because, I just couldn't figure that out. And for once, humanity didn't let me down. They were just like, we're not doing that.
Mr. Rocket says, 1984 is my favorite year. I was 13, so no mortgage and responsibilities, great music, TV and films, and it was the year that Elite came out on the Beeb. What's your favorite year, guys? Mr. Rocket's the same age as you, man.
Yeah, I was 13 and that year. I would probably say, the easy answer would be 89. That summer when I graduated from high school, and you haven't went out and ruined your life yet, or you haven't been nailed down with student debt or car payments or insurance. You've got that summer before it all goes south on you. You can go run the roads. And I remember hanging out with my buddy, a couple chicks, going to Kings Island, running around, going on trips, having a really good time that summer. I thought to myself, this is the best. But as I get older, I've had a lot of good years over the years. I've had some bad ones too. But it's hard to nail one down. But it would probably, in all honesty, it'd probably be something maybe the last 5 or 6 years, where even and every year it seems I feel like I'm getting more done. And so I've got a personal motto, and I look at myself every year on my birthday, and I think to myself, are you doing better than you were last year on your birthday? And if I can say I am, that was a good year. And more often than not, I think I am. So that's the way I judge a boat.
My favorite year was 1995.
Why is that?
That was, about midway through 8th grade, I started coming out of my shy, awkward shell. Yeah, you did. And started to become the person that I am now. I had a really good back half of 8th grade, a good Kings Island trip that was really fun. I was hanging out with girls that were attractive. And then I joined the band. And joining the band, like the high school band, that first year, that first summer, when you go in there for the summer band, and you're around all of these people that are much older than you. Like when you're a freshman and you're hanging out with seniors, you're like, wow, this is awesome, you know? And just feeling like you were part of a big group of friends was not something that I'd ever felt. Even though I was in stuff like karate and scouts like that, I never really felt like I was part of a family type group of friends. And so that was really important to me. I thought there was a bunch of great music in 1995. Of course, the music that comes out when you're a teenager is statistically the best. I just I thought 95 was a great year. That's number one for me. There's a couple years. 2008 was another good year, but 95 is number one with a bullet for me.
You know, it's funny that both of us mentioned Kings Island when that thing, which I was the same way. You know, I wish I'd had the same experience in band that you did. I did not find it. I hated my freshman year so much. I hated the band. I didn't think they weren't very nice to me that year. And I think it was probably a tectonic shift between band that I was in, the band you were in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it was a
my
totally
band was
different thing.
huge, and it was people were sort of cliquey. You know, and I didn't know anybody going in. It was so I didn't like it that much. And I'd say junior, senior year, I enjoyed it a lot more.
Yeah, there's something to be said. I mean, you went into, you know, like a really elite program, and that comes with good things and bad things, like you said. So, Spinny,
also, I sucked.
Spinny 108 asks, do you have accents and slang words specific to West Virginia? Being from Lancashire in the UK, you would probably think I was speaking in tongues if you heard me. Do we have any slang or accents here in West Virginia, Aaron?
No, we don't have any. Everything's pretty straightforward, vanilla. You know, I don't know if when you talk about specific West Virginia slang words, like I can't sit here and tell you some. I've seen some linguistical programs where they go over the different slang words in Appalachian. A lot of the slang words they mentioned I've never heard. So these are old school. I mean, I don't know. I remember when I was a kid, when my babysitter used to call stuff, you put this in the poke. I didn't know what a poke was until then. Or instead of, you know, calling soda pop and that kind of stuff. But I mean, I don't know. Do we have anything? Can you think of any words on top of your head that we only use in West Virginia? You know, but it seems like most redneck states use the same, like, stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's definitely like an Appalachian, like, it's more of an Appalachian regional thing than a West Virginia specific thing. But I mean, there's your classics. There's your fur piece. There's your reckon. You know,
Down
there's stuff
yonder.
like, you still hear stuff like that. But I mean, it's really dying out. I mean, you know, I never hear anybody our age saying stuff like that. It's always the old people. So I don't know if when you get old, you just automatically start using those words, or if it's dying out.
Well, I think part of it's where we live, because when you go out in the sticks, they sound real country out there. But I mean, I think there's a stigma attached to West Virginia. We all know that, and Appalachia as a whole. But West Virginia really gets the brunt of it, and so a lot of people purposely try to not sound like they're a West Virginian because they don't want to. They don't want to go out to Chicago or Arizona, and people will be like, "Look at you! Look at the way you talk." You know, my cousins came down from New Jersey one time. And they talk 1,000 miles a second, and after where you would put a period, they say the word right. They'd be like, I went to this trees, right? Now, when I got something to eat, right? Now, whatever got something. And I was sitting there like, you talk like an idiot, you know, but no one mocks them. They get away with anything. But here we are. If we say it's a fur piece down yonder, we're the dumbest people on earth. So what can you do?
David Hearn Ryder asks, if you had managed to wrong Harley Race back in the day and he was keen for a square up, how would you handle it?
I would probably, oh man, Harley Race. Harley Race is a bad dude. And also he packed heat. He was well known for packing a gun, and he also drove like a maniac while drinking beer. I mean, he was a complete outlaw. So if I had wronged him, I'd probably have to leave the country, or I mean, because you're not going to make it right with him. He's not that kind of guy. You know, you might just have to sit down, just let him beat you down real bad, and maybe you can let him beat you until he gets even. I don't know. But one thing Harley had was this big afro and these big, huge chops. They were so cool. I wanted those so bad.
I don't know that I've ever seen Harley race before.
Picture a white guy, okay?
Okay.
For about 6 foot tall, with a brown, like, white guy afro, okay? and it chops like big, huge chops. And he wore coming to the ring. He had a coat and it was 2 colors split right down the middle, like red and blue. And he had red and blue tights maybe, and then boots. And that was it. He'd take the coat off and wrestle. And his big moves were all headbutt related. That's what he did. He did a top rope headbutt, stuff like that. He was world champ, 7-time NWA world champ. But I mean, legit bad dude, not to be messed with. Who asked that?
That was David Hearn Ryder.
David Hearn knows. He knows. If you get Harley Race out there, you know.
Yeah, he even put wrong in quotation marks to let you know that you wronged him. Is Too Scooby asks, are you a night owl or an early riser?
Both, unfortunately. I've always been a night person. I mean, even when I was a kid, I would always stay up super late. And then much like now, that I would get up at like 6:50 or whatever in the morning and then go do the job. I've always ran with very little sleep. What about you, Boat?
I am an early riser, 100%. I enjoy getting up early, and I enjoy going to bed early. If I don't get a good night's sleep, I don't function well, and I'm not pleasant to be around.
You're in trouble tomorrow then, buddy.
What's going on tomorrow?
Bedtime, because it's 9:10 now.
Oh, it is. Why? Don't trust me. I've got the PJs ready as soon as this thing's over.
I'm surprised you're not wearing them.
Spinny108 asks, have you ever had your identity stolen? Happened to me a couple years back. 2 bank accounts and 2 iPhone contracts taken out in my name in one day. Luckily, got everything stopped and reported before any damage was done.
It's funny. I had my identity stolen one time, and then about 15 minutes later, it was given back with a $5 bill and a note that said, I'm so sorry. So I don't know what that means. But aside from that, no, I've never had it stolen.
I've never had. I don't believe I've ever had my identity stolen, so I've been lucky. Ravi asks, what is the best traditional American comfort food you would recommend to Europeans to try?
Go ahead, Boat.
When I was in 8th grade, and I don't know if you did this or not, we took a field trip to Bob Evans' farm.
Yes, of course. Yes, absolutely. We did that.
And I remember we pulled up, and it was like, in my mind, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm sure it was like 7:30. But we got there super early, and the mist was still hanging over the trees.
Yeah.
When they had these picnic tables lined up, right? And I mean, and everybody that was in 8th grade sat down at these picnic tables, and they brought us all biscuits and gravy and hot apple cider.
Oh wow, man!
And I still remember eating those biscuits and gravy, sitting on that picnic table with that hot apple cider, thinking, "Man, this is the best darn meal I've ever had in my life." And so, to me, that's the ultimate comfort food is biscuits and gravy.
You know that Bob Evans is great. I need to take the kid out there.
Yeah.
You know, I know I've mentioned this story before, but I'll mention it just real briefly. I was out there with my buddy one time drinking that delicious apple cider, and I was like, "Hey, give me a swig of that apple cider." He's like, "Nah, I'm not giving you none." And it was, it's in like a milk container, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he turned it up, and I just put my hand up and held it up to his face so he couldn't take it down. And so he was drinking as fast as he could, and eventually he couldn't drink anymore. And it spilled all over his face and all over his shirt, and he was real pissed off. And the best part of it is there were like 4 million sweat bees out, and they were hungry for cider. So they accosted him all day. That's what you get for not sharing, man. But
that's true. It's a life lesson.
That's a good choice. And Bob Evans' food was really good back in the day, and now it's
It's okay.
When I think comfort food, though, if I really want to get comfortable, I want to do it. I hate to say it because this is the answer I give every time, but I love me a good pizza pie. I know most people would think, oh, how about a chip or a cookie? No, a full pizza is what I recommend with
is there a certain kind, like brand of pizza franchise?
Yes, there actually is. I was talking to somebody about this the other day because the building is up for rent again. But my old stomping grounds at Davaroni's.
Yeah, Davaroni's is great.
We had this square pan pizza deal. I mean, we had it forever. I think it was $9.99, and you got a pop or something with it. And man, those pizzas, I knew how we made them, and then we made them perfect, and they were great. And I would love to have a Davaroni's pizza right now. And even one of the little personal pan pizzas would be good. And some of those beer battered onion rings.
I'll tell you what
Davaroni's was great.
Daveronis. I still remember getting Daveronis pizza, just open it up, and the way that the grease would pool on top, man, it was so good. I just love just being able. It was like you could like suck the grease off the pizza while you ate it. Same with
Well,
with the cheese sticks. You crack open the cheese stick like you're biting the bottle top off a beer, and then you just drain that grease, and then you shove the rest of the cheese stick in.
Well, the Devereaux, your pizza wasn't inherently cheesy. It depended on the toppings you got. But I can tell you, we used actual. How many places could say this now? We used actual cheese. We used actual tomato sauce. It was a blend of tomato sauce, and it was a blend of cheese. I mean, it was a full-on job. These guys knew how to make food. Unfortunately, they went out, but I do miss that terribly.
Yeah.
So that'd be something I'd love to have again.
Duncan Styles asks, you have been exiled to an island for doing something truly terrible. You're allowed to have one food outlet built on the island, but it will be the only source of food and drink on the island.
Okay.
Which outlet would you have built?
So this is like a
food
restaurant.
Outlet. I think by food outlet he means restaurant. But
Okay,
I
that
could be
sounds good.
wrong. Yeah.
What do you think about that, Bo? Do you have your Bob Evans stuck out there?
No, Chinese buffet.
What about your wife's restaurant? You could have that built right on the island. That'd work out great.
Give me the China Chef in Taze Valley.
Oh no! See, I mean, I will say the China Chef has their buffet is vast.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that. But I'm going to go with Schaefer's. Man, they've got all sorts of different food for different types of food, and plus you got all those milkshakes and ice creams and stuff. You ain't gonna get that at Chinese buffet, brother. They got 2 types of ice cream there.
That's true. That's true.
And plus, if I put a Schaefer's on the island, I don't have to even go up to the counter. I can just pull up in my my coconut mobile.
That's right.
Have it just like the professor. They could bring out to have the chick come out.
TSI Matt asks, which is more important, creativity or cooperation?
Well, if it's creativity, I'm sunk. I'd say cooperate. Well, I mean, what you do is you cooperate with someone that's more creative than you. That's what I've done here on the Amigos, and it worked out great. So I would say cooperation, bub.
Yeah, I think cooperation, because sooner or later, you're going to, no matter how creative you are, you're going to need somebody else. And if you can't cooperate with them, it doesn't matter how creative you are.
Well said, Boat.
NetSurge Frank asks, why do we park on a driveway and drive on a parkway?
We're dumb. That is dumb, and I'll think about it. I never really thought about it. Does anyone call them parkways anymore? Not that often, right?
Usually it's the name of a road. So you'll have like the Powhatan Parkway, which I just passed in like Chillicothe or something. Or no, that was in Richmond. They had the Powhatan Parkway.
Do we have any parkways around here?
No.
We got highways, like the Dixie highways, the highway, stuff like that.
Yeah, we don't really have a lot of parkways, but like the Baltimore-Washington Parkway, I used to drive on that all the time up in D.C.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. Do you know what they call the sidewalk in England?
Is it the front set?
No, they call it the pavement. The pavement.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was just trying to do the opposite. I don't know. They did weird stuff over there, man.
Lord Soup asks, is the world getting dumber, or is it just dumb people get in charge more often these days?
No, the world's getting dumber. Yeah, it's getting way dumber, I think.
No arguments here.
And let me tell you something. We're reaching it. There's a tipping point here for dumbness. And I've seen Idiocracy plenty of times, and I'm afraid we're heading down the road, man. Every year, I think we get a little closer.
Jocko 6502 asks, what, in your opinion, is the best line from a movie or video game?
Oh, jeez. That's such a hard question to answer off the cuff. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't have like a favorite line from a movie.
I love I love Army of Darkness, and so I could easily pick any number of lines from Ash that make me stand up and applaud. I'd say so, and come get some, or one of those. Also, if you've ever seen the sequel to Westworld, the old movie, the last scene in it, it has no line at all. It's just the guy who's been harassed and tormented at this world. He just holds up his middle finger as he walks down the stairs. Don't even acknowledge it. I've always thought that was a particularly cunning line. I like that one. Also, any number of lines from Airplane or Naked Gun would be in there. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna go with Roger. Roger, what's our vector? Victor. That's a great one. I love that from the old Airplane movie when they're in the cockpits. I'm gonna go with something like that. That's off the top of my head.
I'll tell you the movies that I quote from the most often are This Is Spinal Tap and Napoleon Dynamite. So
both are both quirky and amusing. That's for sure.
Both of which fly totally over my students' heads as I cackle with delight.
They don't get Spinal Tap.
I know it's hard to believe. Super Tech Boy asks, if you could marry any BGW wrestler, who would it be?
Oh man, it's hard to say no to Super Oprah, Bode. I'll be honest with you. Let's see. I'm trying to think of. I'll tell you who I liked, Bode. I liked the Show Pony that we saw a couple shows ago. I liked her. I remember her super sparkly up, but I'm not sure you were. You may not have been on that show.
No, I was there.
Oh yeah, do you remember her?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I liked her an awful lot. I also liked the chick who was part of the tag champs with what's it? Something Poison.
Ruby Poison.
Ruby Poison. And we haven't seen the partner for a while. But
she's actually I go to church with her dad.
Yeah.
She's
creepy.
She's now retired from wrestling, but she does commentary. She gets called out all different places.
Wait a minute, that chick's the chick, the tag champ chick that we see occasionally.
Yeah,
she retired.
Colby Maxim, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
she was getting booked everywhere too. I'm surprised.
Yeah, she got injured. That's the she got injured.
Oh, Sumi Sakai, I like her when she came through. So I'll put her on the list too. What about you?
I like the Viking chick with the.
Ragnarok.
Yeah. Give me her. Alien Breeder asks, if one Amiga game character had to replace Mario from day one, which one would it be?
Had to replace it. So an Amiga character has to replace Mario
from day one. So the world never knew Mario. Instead, they knew this Amiga character.
You know who was a lot of fun is that episode that me and the Brent covered, where it had the kid and his little, and they had like a
You're talking about
buddy.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
No, that's not what we covered. What was you were out that week?
I remember it. It was it was on Amigos. It wasn't on ARG.
Because you badmouthed the thumbnail for Bubble and Squeak. That's it.
Oh, Bubble and Squeak.
I thought that guy was pretty cool. So if Bubble and Squeak were like Mario and Luigi, I could be down with that. I like that. That game was more fun than it had any right to be, frankly.
Yeah, that's not a bad choice. I think Super Frog is an excellent mascot. It's a console quality mascot.
You just don't like the game.
No.
Think of the pickups that Mario would have now. I mean, coins in every section of the screen at the pickup.
Absolutely, just all coin. Is2 Scooby asks, if you were going to be turned into a mythical creature of the night, which would you choose, vampire or werewolf? I'm going to jump out in front with this one because there's only one correct answer, and that is vampire.
You got that right.
Which one can turn into mist and float around?
Right.
Which one can turn into a bat? Which one gets all the hot ladies? Not the werewolf. Screw you, Michael J. Fox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Which one has to lift his leg to pee? We're going with vampire all the way, brother.
Mm-hmm. Alan Breeder asks, mac and cheese. Oh, wait a minute. No, he's answering. He's answering a question here. Okay.
Poor alien breeder.
Hat Chad asks, people know both of you as the hosts of many shows now. What is something you do that just never gets brought up on shows that occupies your non-Amigos time? This is the chance, Aaron. You told me something before we started the stream tonight that I'd never heard before. You told me that you were an entrepreneur and you and the Chud opened your own business. Tell me about that.
I can't believe this has never come up. Surely
this has never come up.
Well, out of trade school or out of college, whatever you want to call it, we were looking for work, and we both were computer guys, and so we I was very, very friendly with a chick whose mom ran a local government-run agency, and they needed new computers. And so to get the job, we had to form a business, the whole 9 yards, to do everything you have to do. And we did. D&W Computers, Dowdy and Wilcox Computers. I got top billing in this outfit. And we went out and we had to purchase computers. We worked them out a deal. We purchased computers and we went there. And then to make sure that they didn't lose any time, we installed them at night. So whatever, it was all over one night. We installed all these computers. These were like Windows 3.11 computers, because this is before Windows 95 would have been out, I think. It was right before. And so we went in there, and guess what? It takes a long time to install an office full of new computers with new software. And Chad had this plan. Chad's one of these guys that gets stuck to something, and he won't give it up no matter what. You know what? You realize that's dumb. He had this plan that he was going to hook up to all these computers over like the parallel port and install the software. Well, as you can imagine, this took for freaking ever.
But what's the bit rate on a parallel port?
Not good. And so it also just dates this quite a bit. So I went through the discs, and I'm going through and installing these things. Like, this is your idea. It's so horrible. But he won't stop. And then eventually he gets tired, and he falls asleep right there. So I'm going
Chud maneuver.
So the sun's coming up. People are showing up in the office. I'm under the desk finishing these things up. So we finished them up. I can tell you, I'm not going to lie. We did a terrible job at this. We made practically no money. Then the tax man came. Oh, the tax man. And he took the rest. And that was the end of D&W Computers, our only effort. And it was that one night, one horrible night. And I thought to myself, you went into business with Chad. That was probably not thought through very well. And so that was it. So there you go. Yeah, that was something we did.
Yeah. So that really didn't have anything to do with Chad's question, but I just wanted to ask you about that.
You told me to sell it.
Yeah, his question is, what is something you do that just never gets brought up on shows that occupies your non-Amigos time?
Well, you go ahead and get into that boat. You do a lot of stuff.
Well, I guess it would probably be my needlework.
Heroin? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I mean, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm quite the accomplished crocheter. I've been working on this amigurumi ball here. I also enjoy cross stitch and needlepoint. I'm working on this right here, this little wood night scene of the Hogsmeade Village from Harry Potter.
Oh, man.
So it's good. We don't really have an international needlework club like we do the computer, so I'm glad to show that off a little bit. I'll take your questions whenever you're ready.
Very good, Boat. Wow, what an artisan you are. In my spare time, I like to I collect bottle caps. I've got a rubber band ball.
The old hobbies. What happened to the old hobbies? Why don't kids have those anymore?
The reason I said that Chad does all these things in real life. I don't. My hobby is probably, I spend a lot of time with the boy, so there's that. I don't have a lot of spare time, to be honest with you, so I don't get to do as much as I used to. So I guess that's my answer. Just raising the kid, as best I can. That's my extra hobby.
Oh, no. I mean, you got to do. So you watch Twilight Zone?
That's not a hobby.
What? It's not?
Watching TV or listening to music is not a hobby. That's just something you do when you're doing your hobby.
Well, let's talk about that. So you don't consider that a hobby? Media consumption, not a hobby.
Well, I mean,
what do you have to?
What do you have to do without paying attention? I mean, it's not like it's on, but you're not necessarily watching it. No, so no, I don't consider. I mean, I'm sorry if you do. That's cool,
I just wanted to. So how would you define a hobby?
Doing stuff like okay. Here's what I've been up to. All right, how about this? I've got a house on the river. They've got as I mentioned, there's no cell phone, there's no internet, there's no nothing. So I dug up my old AM transmitter. If anyone's familiar with this old boy, it's the SS Tran AMT 3000. These things sold like decades ago. And I'm going to rig this thing up to play. I'm going to start my own little micro radio station up on the river that will cover hopefully about a mile. And will allow people to listen to whatever I choose because it's the only game in town. So I guess there you go. There's a hobby for you. That's my
I
side.
love that. I remember when you bought your current house, that was one of the things you said you wanted to do is play music for the high school kids.
And then it went. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. That's a good idea, actually. I'm gonna get back into that. Thanks, Boat.
Yeah. Mr. Dave 6309 asks, which one of y'all is the better gamer?
Well, I'd say we both have our specialities. For example, Boat is much better at games like role-playing games. Like Japanese
You don't
RPGs.
really get good at role-playing games. You just have to endure them.
Well, man, that may be why I'm not good at them. Boat's also, listen, he's a platformer extraordinaire. I mean, because you watch him play Addams Family, he's very good. My bag is more like fighting games or platformers. So, I've got my own different platforms of what Boat plays. But I think I'd say we were pretty close. I mean, overall.
I think we're pretty evenly matched overall.
Boat's got more patience than me, that's for sure.
We each have games that most of the time, if you're good at the games that you like you're good at Donkey Kong because you put a lot of time into Donkey Kong. I'm good at Addams Family for the same reason.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that either of us have the innate video gaming ability like somebody like Jamie has,
or Brent. Brent's. I hate to say it. I hate to give the devil his due, but he's very good.
Both of those guys have innate gaming abilities.
He even typed in the chat. I shouldn't have said anything. I forgot he was here.
All right. Let's see here. Pixels of Dawn asks, and this is the final question: how has your July helped you relax with a break from Amigos streams? Have you avoided insanity? Did Boat just go out and create 17 new projects to fill the gap?
Well, Boat, you want to tackle that one first?
It's funny. The month has gone by really, really quick. Mostly because, for one weekend I was gone. I went to Richmond to compete in the EIDO seminar. Then the weekend, the first weekend in July was July 4th, so that weekend was gone. And then, I've been helping Eep with the restaurant every day. I've been keeping up with my needlework. I finished up a bunch of long novels that I've been waiting years to finish up. So the time has gone by fast, but I've definitely noticed something missing from my life, because when you do something every week for 8 years and then all of a sudden it's gone, it doesn't feel right. And so I've enjoyed this month off, but I'm really itching to get back into it.
It's funny because we bookended this time off with, right up to the wire with stuff. Because we did between Boat Fest and wrestling, and then wrestling comes back right away in August. August 5th, we'll be back at it. And wrestling is not, we have fun doing it, but it takes some work, and the post-production takes some time too. So, it's work. When we do it. So I consider that extra bonus stuff. But in terms of the time off, of course, I've been doing ARG with Brent, and of course, our schedule's been a little wonky too. We just filmed one earlier tonight. But, we've kept it going. But yeah, it's weird, Boat. But I have enjoyed, you don't want to disappoint anybody. And so, for 9 years? How long? Is it 9 now, or it's still 8? I don't know how long it's been.
Well, actually, today I believe is the 8th anniversary of our first episode.
There you go. So we're working on 9 years here going forward. We've done this week in, week out, without fail, almost for the entire time. Maybe a here or there we miss one, but there is some pressure involved, and it absolutely. I'm not gonna say it takes over your life, but you build your life with that in there, and you have to work around it. You have to. You've got stuff that has to be done every week. All right, that's part of it, and so it's odd. I will say I've enjoyed having the extra time off. Like I can come in and I came in last night and sat down and watched some shows. And I never, ever, ever get to do that. I'm always working almost every night trying to get stuff done. Between that and plus my other life stuff, it's perpetually, it's been so quick because we never stop. And so I have enjoyed having the extra time to do stuff I never get to do. I've watched more TV shows and movies and went out more. We, went on trips this month, and it's been enjoyable. With all that said, it's also, like Boat said, you kind of feel like that there's something missing because you don't do this. You don't do this for 8 years if you don't like it or love it or can't help yourself because you love it so much. And so you're literally removing a part of your life that you love. And so I'm anxious. I like tonight. I was so happy we got to do Ask the Amigos because really I haven't got to see a whole lot of Boat since wrestling.
It's weird. I was going to say this is the longest it's been since we've seen each other in 8 years.
Yeah. And that's no good, obviously, because we like to hang out.
Yeah, man.
And it's funny, the last time I saw you in person, we had a great time. We were at wrestling, had a good old time. We'll be at wrestling again next weekend. And doing Amigos, we're going to be back in action here in a couple weeks, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm very optimistic going forward. I like the direction. It's funny, while we've been gone, our channel has been blowing up. Like we've had the most success we've ever had. Like I think across the board, wouldn't you say, Boat?
I don't know what happened in July.
Yeah.
But everything has just gone to the moon, relatively speaking.
And so that's very encouraging. And, because no one wants to not have anyone pay attention to what they're doing if they're doing something. And let's be honest, I think I said we've become addicted to like having people that care about what we say, but it's just fun to have a bunch of people to chat with and that watch your stuff. So, I'm looking forward to getting back in it and really even cranking it up a little bit and, working, perfecting our game and trying to maybe change some stuff around and having a good go of it for the rest of the year and going forward, Boat.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward. Like I said, it definitely, like I said, watching those numbers every day on YouTube just keep getting higher and higher. It definitely makes you more pumped up to come back than if the opposite were true,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's great.
all right, well, that's going to do it for this month's Ask the Amigos. As always, if you're a member of our Discord community, you can pop a question in the Ask the Amigos channel, and we will answer it on the next go-round. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you next time, and until then, adios.